Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of College Football UK. We are back just a tiny little bit earlier than normal due to the Christmas period. I don't think Sam and I fancied on recording on Christmas night. I don't know. No,
No, I
no,
don't think I'd have been allowed.
no. To be fair, same. There's a lot of stuff you can get away with by saying, "Come on, it's Christmas," but I don't think going and podcasting about college football is going to cut it, especially over here. But either way, as you can tell, I am joined by Sam, at least for now. Just Sam. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good, good. Got the double win this week, so just glad to be through in the playoffs, and yeah, glad the Rams got a decent win as well.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? With that in mind, let's just get going. Start off with a little bit of news. I do believe you pulled a couple of bits up before we got going. Um, what did you have for us?
So I mean, with obviously with us now being in the playoff season, there's a lot less going on, and it's more going to be big, like loads of committals and things like that. That's probably going to be coming out of this, and then obviously
Yeah.
declarations for the draft. But we do have Notre Dame sack leader is out for the rest of the playoffs, which obviously is a big blow to Notre Dame. I'm
Yeah.
sure we can go over that a bit more when Nick does eventually join us. Michigan have landed ex Fresno State QB Mikey Keene. I'm assuming that might be that he runs the offense until maybe Bryce Underwood is ready to go.
Hmm.
Um, Five-star receiver Dallas Wilson has signed for Florida. I think he did originally commit to Oregon a couple of years ago or a year ago. He's now switched his allegiance to Florida. Auburn have landed the number one wide receiver from the portal in Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech. That's a huge, huge land. And Steve Belichick, uh, more famously known as the son of Bill Belichick, has decided to join him at North Carolina as his defensive coordinator. Something I'm not completely surprised about, to be honest.
No.
And then the final bit of news, oh, there's a couple bits more. Um, a three-star high school prospect, 2 years out of California, Darian Mensah, hit the transfer portal with an eye-popping asking price or that's best illustrated what name, image, and likeness has turned into the college football. So that might be something we want to just go over. But essentially, he's received a deal from Duke that is believed to pay him $8 million over 2 years. So a 4 million average would make him the highest paid player in college football history unofficially.
Yeah,
So
that'll do it.
that's an interesting one. And the final bit of news, and this is just something that is more for the UK fans than maybe any US fans listening. Um, the Georgia Bulldogs believe they may have found their next lad McConkey. The name of this guy is Vance Spafford. For anyone who's a UK fan, as mentioned, obviously the surname may give you a little giggle, but he is one of Georgia's early commitments from the 2026 class. Four-star recruit out of ooh, I'm not sure where he's out of, but either way, he's I think fairly similar in size to Lad McConkey, 5'11", 175 pound frame, which isn't too dissimilar to Lad. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe keep an eye out of him in a couple of years' time.
Yeah. The Let's face it. Me and you had a giggle about this for 10 minutes off.
Yeah,
Spafford
more
is one hell of a name.
more so the connotations that will come with the name from UK based fans of if he gets a touchdown. So I'm
Yeah.
sure there'll be plenty that go around out there.
Spaff in the end zone. So yeah, that's quality. And like you say, that to just touch on one of the things there is as well that Steve Belichick going to coach with his dad. I see. No,
Mm.
we all saw that one coming, or to a certain extent, saw that coming.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I think you've spent your life in the shadow of your dad, only to then go and join him at college level. It makes things a bit odd, but you know, father
Here
son
he
way
is.
of winning.
I've been trying to get in for like 20 minutes. Oh,
I don't know. This is the first time I've seen you enter this. How are you, sir?
fine, thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
You
Merry
too.
Christmas.
I see that we've all come Christmas up today. I've got my Christmas hat on. Nick, you've got your Christmas lights in the background. Sam's got his Christmas decks in the background.
Oh, there you go. It's Christmas time.
Oh, we're loving it. Um, just gone through a couple of bits of news there, Nick. Just a couple of
Yep.
transfers and whatnot, but also the you tell Nick the name.
There's a 5-star recruit, sorry, 4-star recruit coming who's committed to Georgia who's supposedly going to be the next Lad McConkey, called Vance Spafford.
Nice. Vance Spafford.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Oh.
me and Fletch had a good childish giggle about that name before we came on.
Really? You two, a childish giggle over such a name like that? That doesn't sound right. Surely not.
The other bit of news which we did mention already, which I suppose is probably a bit closer to you, maybe get your opinion on it, with Riley Mills missing the rest of the playoffs. Who's your sack leader?
Yeah, I mean, he's played really well. I mean, I don't think it's going to make too much of a major difference. I think we've got a really good unit at the moment. So it's one of those very unfortunate, sad to see, but hopefully it's a position that can be covered.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, apparently Gabriel Rubio is listed as the backup D tackle, and he's played 29 games over the last 3 seasons, posted 4 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack in 2024. So, good player to come in as a backup, I suppose.
yeah.
Uh,
Funnily enough, the only bit of news, because a lot it's all playoffs and everything else.
yeah.
Obviously, the only major bit of news that I had taken note of came out sort of yesterday. Today was the fact that after the bowl game on the 31st of December, Steve Belichick will leave Washington and
Yeah.
join his dad. I mean, in fairness, in one season. He's taken Washington from what 90th to 26th in defense, or from 99th, whatever it was. So, he's got one team trending very much in the right direction in just one season. So I think it's yes, he's going to work for his dad and everything else, but I think it's a very, very shrewd and very constructive move in that it's not yes, it's nepotism, but it's also not. He's actually got the validity behind it to back
Yeah.
it up. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Positive nepotism rather than negative nepotism.
Correct.
Well, to be fair, Bill Belichick doesn't seem like the type of person to bring his son on board if his son's not if his son
Yeah,
isn't
if
up
his
to
son wasn't good
scratch.
enough, he would not bring him on.
That's right. Yeah.
That's not
Maybe,
the Bill Belichick we know.
maybe that's why he left the other one in New England.
I mean, but
uh,
other than that, the only other thing I've got at the moment is not really a thing. I've got my screen split because on the other side, I've got one side with some of my notes for today, and on the other side, I'm currently watching the Potato Bowl
yeah.
with Northern Illinois leading 13-10 in the Potato Bowl, and that is a lovely.
Do you mean Fresno State leading 13-10?
Yes, I do. Sorry that it just got. But there was a catfish food advert on, and I was distracted by the food. I'm sorry.
However,
Just
Fresno
about.
State have just been intercepted, so I'll let you off.
So are you saying you eat cat food then? Is that what you're saying?
I
Because
have
that would
been known.
explain a lot.
I once or twice on after a couple of drinks, and some of those treats just look like normal. No, I'm not. No, we're not going there. Um, to get going though, obviously this weekend we had a few games. It isn't the busiest weekend of football, but it was one of the. It was put forward as potentially one of the best weekends of football. Didn't quite turn out that way either, but it was an important weekend as the 12-team playoffs got underway for the first time, and so we even had a couple of bowl games in that. First one, I think it seeing as you both in, we'll start small, get big. So first one was the bowl game on Saturday, which was Florida and Tulane. Or was that Friday?
Friday.
It's that week. It's that Christmas week now, isn't it? Where like days don't make sense and mean anything. Um,
Oh, we've had that before.
it's just everything's been thrown this week.
Yeah,
So Florida absolutely dominated, came out 33-8 winners, and that was only because Tulane got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion right towards the end. Did it? Either of you catch any of this? I watched most of it.
I watched. I watched a little bit, but I had commitments away, and I was traveling as well. So I've watched a little bit. Most of it's recorded at home. Whether I actually get a chance to watch the rest of it, I don't know because I already know the result and what I
Yeah,
know. So it might be a case of I don't end up actually watching the rest of it. But
yeah. Well, it's not the end of the world if you. It wasn't the most exciting of games. 33-8 kind of is what it is at that point.
yeah,
DJ Lagway had a bit of a weird game. He threw for 305 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions, but still managed a passer rating of 134.1.
It was what I think they just kind of came out with the idea that you can kind of just sling it around on Tulane and to an extent kind of did. The uniform matchup was elite. I'll say that. It was a great contrast in uniforms. And the only other real highlight out of that was 320-pound interior defensive lineman being put in at running back for a couple of plays. Got put in on a short yardage situation, got the first down, and then hit the Heisman on the sidelines. Easily my highlight of the weekend. My only regret, well, I say regret, it's not really my regret to have, but my only little gutted thing about it was that they didn't put him in on a 1 yard line package on it by the end zone on a first and goal there because a thick six, that kind of thick six, are just incredible, incredible. And with that, the most important news, and granted, we're going to lose all of our listeners now because the most important bit of news is gone. Florida will take the MacGuffin for the rest of the off season, and no one can take it off them now until who was it they play? Was it where did it go? Where there we go. LIU, USF, LSU, then Miami, Florida are their first 4 games of the season. They're the first 4 opportunities for them to lose it now. So they'll probably keep it until September. And then with LSU and Miami, I can't quite see them coming out with that unscathed without a loss. But playoffs. Go to the playoffs. 4 games that we had. Let me get them back up again. If we start with, we'll end with your 2 teams, Notre Dame and Texas, and we'll start with the other 2. Where they gone now? So Penn State and SMU. We can go there. Penn State ran away with it, nice and comfortable. Didn't break a sweat. Did you catch much of this one?
I saw a little bit. I think the bit I loved the best was the Penn State put all the SMU fans up in the nosebleed section, right at the top in one corner of the side stand. You could
Yeah, yeah.
see there was about 10 rows of bleachers, and all these SMU fans were packed into this tight little
That
square. And I thought you'd see that on a sort of like FA Cup game in the Premier League or something.
Newcastle against like Wrexham or something. They're all just
Yeah,
stuffed in the top
yeah.
corner.
It's one of those you don't expect, because obviously in college ball and the NFL, fans are very different, and the way that fans attend the game is very different. You can get multiple. I mean, maybe not Ohio State and Michigan. We'll leave that there. But you can get multiple fans. In and amongst each other, and not have a problem. Whereas in our football, there's so much tribalism, and you can't do that. But I just thought it was very sort of English football, English soccer style, to have these things packed tightly in this little nosebleed section up in the top. That made me chuckle. That was like one of the highlights of that game.
that was the whole marching band as well, wasn't it? Up there in the top of the bleachers, and
Pretty
then
much, yeah,
so Penn State just basically go on then, make an atmosphere, try.
yeah.
No, but it always reminds me of when you go somewhere like the Bernabeu or the Nou Camp. Again,
They put
no
you
matter
up in the
what,
gods, yeah,
away fans are up all the way at the top. So even if the away fans are at the loudest, you can still barely hear them. They're out the way,
yeah.
kind of not bothering anyone. But yeah, it was pure domination from Penn State from the get go. We're 28-0 up at the half, and then hang on, let me get the actual score. No,
That
they were.
that was the point where I stepped in. That was the when I started watching was when Penn State scored that fourth touchdown, and that was when I gave up watching it because I thought it's done. The game's done. I don't need to watch that.
Yeah, 28-0 up at halftime. They brought SMU thought maybe they're coming out of this into the second half swinging. They scored a field goal, brought it back to a close 28-3, and well, we not a scoreline that many of us are unfamiliar with.
No, I think
28-3.
I think one of the interesting things on it is there was a lot before that game and a lot leading up to the format of the college playoff. There was a lot, made about whether SMU actually deserved to be there. And they've gone into that game and got absolutely smashed. You know, it doesn't. I want to be careful about how I say this. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't scream that they did deserve to be there. But on the flip side of the coin, they qualified. So in a way, they did deserve to be. We talked last week. With our guest about the playoffs and how the format won't change next year, but in 2026 there is that scope to change it, and I think that's probably where they need to look at maybe slightly a slight variation or a slight change, because while every team that we expected to win this weekend won, and so there was no upsets or whatever, it was the only game that was a complete and utter blowout.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, to be fair, you kind of got to think of it as well as that Penn State got two pick sixes off the
yeah,
bat. That killed the game because then they went and got two rushing touchdowns. I mean, had those two picks not been picks, maybe we would have seen a slightly closer game.
Yeah. No,
Maybe.
100%. 100%. I'm 100% with you there, because I felt like there was a theme up until the Ohio State Tennessee game, um, in that there was a lot of just not looking special. There's a team running away with it and they don't look special, and it felt similar to some of those FA Cup games where you get a higher up Premier League team who gets a FA Cup third round tie against, I don't know, mid-table championship team, and they're just able to not really break out of second gear, third gear, and they win 3-4 nil.
Mm.
And when you've got QBs who were just, I really, to an extent, I felt really bad for Jennings because it was just all three of his picks were almost entirely his fault as well. And they weren't a receiver running a bad route. They weren't. It wasn't an incredible play made by defensive players. They were almost thrown straight. I think there was one of them that was a tip or kind of caught at the line, but Jennings just made life so hard for himself.
Mm.
It was complete contrast to his game against Miami, 2 weeks prior, because he had a great game in that game. You know, nerve situation. I don't know, but he had two games there, complete contrast. It was just, you know, you would have liked the score to have been closer, and you do feel sorry for him, but you know that's the game, I guess.
I mean, these were SMU's offensive drives in the first half. Turnover and downs, pick six. Three and out, punt, pick six. Punt after 5 plays. Interception, turnover and downs, punt.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
going to say, don't you? Sounds like Old Dominion versus Georgia State. That punt, 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 punt.
Well, do you know what? To be fair, there's only 3 punts out of 9 drives. There were equally as many interceptions as punts. So
I wouldn't say that's something to celebrate.
no, I no, I'm not. I don't think I'm quite celebrating that one. Three pick sixes. Sorry, 3 picks, 3 punts, and 2 turnover on downs. And again, I think the only that last turnover on downs and that last punt were the only play drives that went more than like 5 plays, and they just refused to get going. And that was the first game on Saturday as well, so it really didn't set too nicely. But one thing that kind of was happening were athletic directors at Ole Miss were tweeting about it as it was
All
happening.
right.
Have you seen the tweet
No, I
that he was
haven't. I
putting out?
haven't. No.
Um, where's it gone? There it is. So Lane Kiffin, well, not well. So athletic directors were tweeting, but also Lane Kiffin just said, "Way to keep us on the edge of our seats, committee. Riveting."
But the
To
thing is,
which,
I get it's easy to say that in hindsight when a team's 28-0 down. But at the end of the day, SMU proved themselves to be worthy of getting into that spot, or at least being in the question. And like I say, on another day, SMU could have not had those two early pick sixes, and the game's completely different. So
yeah,
it's so easy to retrospectively talk about that, like that SMU didn't deserve to be there. That it showed in the game, and it's like, well, even some of the best teams in the NFL will get blown out a couple of times, and you don't expect it.
yeah.
So
It wasn't until I felt towards the end of the second quarter that Penn State even themselves started to get somewhat going on offense.
mm,
Started to get the ground game working, started to get nicely moving, but it just it again, like I was saying there, that was one of a few games where I just felt Penn State didn't have to be special, didn't have to do anything overly difficult or bring out some really nice plays out of the playbook. They just had to kind of turn up, and SMU beat themselves in so many respects. But when we're talking about things like that, is that I completely agree as well on the whole. At the end of the day, Alabama and Ole Miss were told, well, like, what's the one where you definitely take the decision out of the committee's hands if you win your games? When you lose, like Alabama losing 28-3 to, is it 20 or 24-3 to Oklahoma when they were three-score favorites. Like, don't lose that game.
Yeah.
What happens at the dance doesn't matter if you don't do what you need to go out and get a date to the dance so you don't turn up.
Mm. Yeah, this is the thing.
That's quite an analogy there, Fletch. I quite like.
Well,
Are we talking from past experience?
I never attended a dance just because I could never be asked going. I can't dance.
That's the excuse you're running
That's
with.
it. That's the excuse,
he's running
and
with.
I'm sticking with it.
Not the female rejection or anything.
Not the female rejection. If there's one thing I'm comfortable with, it was female rejection. I was very comfortable in that. This podcast is taking a real college football, right? College football is what we're here for. My wife just sat there pissing herself, to be honest, at this moment in time. It's not a good place for
Well,
me
we're
to
glad to be entertaining to her, and she can't even hear it.
Exactly. Well, she can only hear a third of this conversation. And no, but either way, like I say, it's one of those you've got to do the things
You've
to
got
get
to do
there
what,
in the first place.
yeah. If you don't do what you need to do at the during the season, then you can't complain if you're not there at the end.
Yeah,
I get it.
And I think just in general, where I'm trying to get at with it was just that's what you got to do at the end of the day. So I don't think all too much can be said about this game other than, well, now that
Better team won.
by far, and that sets up Penn State to play Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl.
I'm quite interested in that. I do.
Two teams that like to run the ball.
Yeah, I really think that could be that. That could be a sneaky good game. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
like Sam's boys, some boys have, they've got to go have a tough game, and everyone's expecting that to be like the game of the weekend. And Notre Dame have got to go and play the Puppy Dogs. So, that game could go either way. But it's like that Boise State, Penn State could be just that sneaky game that has the potential to be amazing.
On paper, it's the worst game.
Yeah.
But it could end up being the best.
I have a different sort of opinion on which one on paper is the worst game, but for different reasons. I see where you're getting at with it. And you can't. I don't think you can truly get it this week. But if you had to pick a one that was good for all the wrong reasons, it would be this one that may not be the flashiest of the games and all that sort of stuff. But no, it should really be a fun one. And Ashton, I can't wait to see Ashton Genty come out after potentially feeling slighted for the Heisman.
Yeah.
And see how he feels about it and whether he puts that onto the field. Or he hasn't declared for the draft yet, has he? Has he declared for the draft?
But most people don't declare for the draft if they're in the playoffs until after they've finished.
I must say, I didn't think he had on. I didn't think he would, but then you've got the other game, and again, this is one I think we can just kind of fly through for the most part because, well, the only person affected by this was me because I really wanted one team to lose.
Yeah, Tennessee didn't really put up much of a fight, did they?
No, they did not. Thanks, Tennessee.
I wondered whether Tennessee's game plan was to let Ohio State run up and down the pitch all game and knacker themselves out for 3 quarters, so that in the fourth quarter, Tennessee were just going to go for it and smash them at the end. And I think that was their game plan. Let Ohio State just run the ball up and down and tire themselves out, because it didn't work.
Yeah, they were down 3 scores in the first quarter. I mean, you can't be going into any playoff game 3 scores down.
No. It's like, do you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Homer became a boxer? And it was just because for 11 rounds he could take punch after punch after punch, and then when his opponents just kind of and he just gets a just tap them and knock them
Yeah.
over and they're gone. Or where you kind of allow a child to run around and go as crazy as possible because you know they're gonna crash at night and you can just put them to bed and they're gone. Um,
And did you see that hit? Did you see the hit that was so hard on the Tennessee QB that they broke his helmet?
yes,
Yeah,
It's literally
yes.
snap. The massive crack all the way down the middle. Oh, there's an advert for helmet safety.
Tell you what, wouldn't
Oh,
that wouldn't have happened to a Guardian cap.
very true. We have talked about it. I've talked about them.
But it's just watching that game. The first half watching that game was Ohio State went back for it. It felt like watching them against Michigan. They tried to play Michigan at Michigan's game and lost. And kind of got when you try to when you're not the tough guy and you go up and play to be the tough guy against us, it comes across as it looks quite demoralising to only put 10 points up and all that sort of stuff. They came out and they were what Ohio State should be and should have been against Michigan and should have been. And most of those they came out and they were a Ferrari. And one of the best analogies I've seen this weekend was Ohio State are a Ferrari that tried to be a tank against Michigan, and they remembered this week that they were a Ferrari.
mm,
And they did everything that you would want Ohio State to do. Get it to Jeremiah Smith, get it to Egbuka, get it to Trayvon Henderson. And dare I say, they look like, say this with great team, they look good while doing it.
mm. Will Howard had a hell of a game, didn't he? 311 yards, 80, nearly 83% completion, 2 touchdowns. There was the interception, but again, 188.7 passing rating.
That's a nuts passer rating.
I mean, to be fair, the other quarterback that played uh, had one snap. No, sorry, one passing attempt, one completion for 6 yards, and got 150.4 passer rating. So
That's
yeah,
nuts. But they put up 317 yards on in the air, 156 on the ground. They didn't. The Tennessee just about put up 152 on the ground and 104 in the air. Just outright. But I say that about by the way about the Ohio State offense being a Ferrari and all that sort of stuff. The defense dominated,
mm,
and Tennessee really, really struggled to do just about anything offensively, and that
Yeah,
defense was very good.
mm,
Um,
yeah. You wondered at one point whether you know it was almost like if Tennessee can just get this next, it almost break it down. It's like if they can just get another set of downs, it gives
yeah,
them that confidence boost. If they can just make a play here, if they can just, maybe if they can just convert this for a field goal. They were in positions where you just thought, if they can just convert once more, whether it be another set of downs or whether it be a field, just you're right there on the cusp. And it just felt that like every time they had to drive, it was one set of downs too many. They just didn't
yeah.
have enough in the tank, for example, just to get all the yards they needed to get where they wanted to be.
And if you look as well, though, the drives throughout the first half, they went 3 and out, 7 yards, 3 and out minus 18 yards, seven, 7 for 22, 7 plays for 22 yards. That's their first 3 drives in the first quarter. I don't think they were in positive yardage until the second quarter.
Yeah, you
at
just need
all.
that kick. You just need that kickstart, don't you? You just need that one drive to kickstart the whole thing, and it just you know just felt that they were. I mean, they were playing catch up for essentially the whole game, and they couldn't keep up.
No, sorry, that's a lie as well, by the way. They were in negative yardage up until just before the first quarter ended, but it didn't take until the second quarter. That then brings them up for a matchup with Oregon.
Yeah,
The only thing obviously I don't want them to get that far, but this would have made an excellent championship game. It's one of those games where at least should be, or at least should be a semi-final. This matchup,
yeah,
it's going to be electric at the Rose Bowl. You aren't going to get many better games than that in the college football playoffs.
yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Sam, what do you think?
Sorry, what was that? I just had to quickly nip away.
Ohio State, Oregon, Rose Bowl quarterfinal.
I'll be disappointed if there's not like 60 plus points in this game. I know there's two brilliant defenses and everything, but I want to see big scores. I want it to be a firecracker of a game.
Who would you rather face? Because I think let's be fair. I think we're gonna say Texas over Arizona State. I would have thought so. Assuming it goes how it's supposed to, who would you prefer?
I think I would prefer Ohio State purely because if it's that whole idea, depends how if they come out thinking they're a tank and they try and bully us, then it will
Yeah,
go the same way that it did against Michigan. I think Oregon has much more going for it in terms of it knows its identity and it's ready. And it's shown 13-0 this season. So I think I'd prefer us to meet Ohio because I think Ohio have a greater chance of beating Ohio than we do necessarily
yeah.
Oregon.
If that's the matchup, I would gladly accept any burnt orange items of clothing that you have for a weekend, and I'll wear them around with pride. But no, that should be an electric matchup.
To be fair, I do have a spare Longhorns jersey you could have.
I was only joking. I'll stick to my maize and blue and just be kind of burnt orange in here for a little bit. That was it. The other point I wanted to make of this was all of a sudden the majority of the Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, USA, a number of the fans who were chirping about why they should have been in, they went quiet after about 6 minutes of this game. Really, really quiet. The SEC wouldn't let that happen. SEC teams won't get blown out like that. SEC teams would not allow that to happen to them. And they all went really quiet. I wonder why. It annoyed me a little bit watching Michigan fans give Ohio State shit for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then sit there after the game and go, "Wow, look at us! Isn't the Big Ten so great?" No, I'm not jumping on that win. That's not a win that's not our win. We can't claim that win. We can't claim that win. We can't claim it as a Big Ten thing. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. But no, that's going to be an electric game, and I think. Do you think to an extent that it shut some of that conversation up? Because an SEC team turned up and got thrown
The only
around like it was a dominatrix session.
the only thing is, it wasn't necessarily probably one of the teams that. It's not one of the bigger teams. They are a big team. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like they've slapped around Georgia or someone like that. So there is that argument, I still think. But also, I mean, it's Ohio State. Ohio State have always been one of the best teams in college football in recent years. So if it had been, say someone else, maybe you'd make that argument. But it's the fact that it's Ohio. They're pretty much the number one overall team, generally speaking, of this era. So
Yeah.
I think more people would have been shocked if Tennessee had gone and beaten Ohio comfortably. So
Well,
I don't think it does anything for it personally.
yeah. Well, with that in mind, it's been revealed already by our wonderful co-host here, Nick, that Texas beat Clemson. Because everyone was obviously waiting on us to tell them what the results were. No one
Yeah,
else
because
wanted to.
nobody here knew the results, did they?
We're match of the day in it for him. I don't see the point in allowing myself to set this one up for you, Sam.
Go for it.
Talk to us about it.
I mean, what was it I put in the chat when we got to halftime? I'm relaxed now. It was an interest. It started off interesting, which I always thought it would do. It was always going to be, I think, a good game. And I think although I think we just about managed the spread, which was 2 touchdowns, I think it was. Clemson never fell out of it. They always felt that they would do something. We just kept them at bay long enough in order for them to not catch us. I mean, at halftime it was 28-10. So we had that sort of 3-score lead going into halftime. And then I think we just kind of sat off. We just sort of we knew we had the win, and we allowed them 2 touchdowns fairly quickly, got within 1 score of us, and then Blue just decided he was going to take the game out of anyone's hands and score the final touchdown of 77 yards. So he just decided, yeah, I've had enough of this. We're finishing this game. But yeah, Clemson played well. They did probably as much as they could. But yeah, we were just a little bit too strong for them, I think. And I mean, we said from the various, with Texas, stop the run game, you stop our offense, and they just had no answer for us from the very start. I think, Weisner had 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. Blue had 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, and obviously Gunnar Helm got the second to last one. So yeah, I think we just managed the game relatively well, but Clemson did well to put their own foot forward. I think 412 yards in total. So yeah, did well.
Yeah.
The two things I thought coming out of that game is, for God's sake, could one team not play in orange and one team not play in white? One team had orange and white, one team had white and orange. It's like, oh, come on, for God's sake, one of you playing one colour, one of you playing the other. Don't be so pathetic. Because that was half the battle.
It was confusing. That bit I really hated, because I was like, you just kept looking at the screen and it was like, these two teams wear the same colours, just stop.
I did wonder though, when Clemson were on that 4th and 1, early in the game, they were on that 4th and 1 and they chose to punt it. And I just think, had they gone for it then and got it, because it seemed from that point forward, they were playing catch up. And it just felt that if they nailed that 4 and 1, they'd have, I don't want to say they'd have stayed in control, but they'd have had another foothold in the game. Do you know what I mean? Because it's almost like, if you trace it back, it's almost like that 4th and 1 was where the game sort of started to slip away from them. I just think if they could have nailed that 4 and 1 and continued on their drive, they might have maintained a little bit more control. Because like you said, you burst into that lead and then they were forever playing catch up. But if they could have maintained that little bit of control and maybe not let you get so far ahead, the game might have been a little different late on. In the
Yeah,
same way we were talking about how Penn State just, blew out into a lead and, SMU were just left for dust. I just think that, if Clemson could have just on a set one, one drive, you know, it's hard to say that the game turned on that because it didn't. But I think if Clemson had maintained a little bit more control by doing that 4th and 1 and being successful, they might have had a better chance at controlling a bit more of the game.
mm. Yeah. I think that's not necessarily the turning point, but yeah, that was where it was 7-7. The game was early. If he'd have taken that 4th and 1, sustained a bit more of the drive,
Yeah,
you then probably don't go 2 scores down. So yeah, I certainly I can see how that is. I mean, it was just one of those. Yeah, it just if people just watch the way that Georgia have beaten us twice this season, that's the blueprint for beating us, which is just stopping the run game. Because as good as Ewers has been this season, he looks shaky throwing, and he has done for a few weeks now. He doesn't have Isaiah Bond there. He's looked a bit shaky with the ball in his hands. He made a couple of very bizarre decisions in the game as well. So yeah, I think it's if people can stop our rush, then they stop us. But I was happy with how the game ended up, and I think like I say, in terms of I suppose Clemson going forward. I mean, obviously Klubnik looked good. 336 yards with 3 touchdowns, passer rating of 144.5. And TJ Moore stepped up and looked really good for them with the 1 touchdown. So he got 116 yards. So yeah, I think they've got enough going for us. Obviously, they didn't have Maffa, which I think really killed them. Because I think if they'd have been able to have had him for more of the game, then they maybe would have been slightly better on the running side of it because they had to end up using a wide receiver as their running back half the game. So yeah, maybe it would have been different had Maffa not got injured. But
in that first run that the wide receiver had, he cut up field and he was gone. It was like go, go, go,
Yeah, because was it you or Egg wrote in the group chat that or someone wrote that the Texans defense parted like the Red River. I think it was in
that
one of
wasn't
the
me.
That sounds like a very egg thing to
I
write.
was going to say
I
that
think it
does
was
sound
actually
like
someone in I think it was someone in the AP UK top 25 chat wrote it. Yeah, they said they parted like the Red River Run or Red River Seas.
I do think that sounds like an egg style wind up though. If I were to put it on anyone, it would be. But I think my favorite part of the whole game was tweeting. Hey, what? Well, hang on. What had Clemson brought the score back to? Was it when it was 31-24? Yeah, it was 31-24. And I tweet, okay, looks like we have a game on our hands then, Clemson. And then 30 seconds later, I tweet, Jaden
maybe
Blue.
not.
Jaden Blue said, no.
Yeah.
To which as I clicked that, I'd already had a response from Sam saying, Jaden Blue says no.
Yeah.
No.
Jaden Blue turned around and went, "Hold my beer.
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
hold
sort
on a bit.
this out."
No,
He was
that's not.
he was on the sideline looking at his phone, going, "Who is this Fletch?" Thinking, "Oh, let's just go and show him."
Yeah, yeah, no bad.
Yeah,
Um,
77 yards to
so
kill the game, really.
what I'm hearing here is I inspired Jadon Blue to a 77-yard touchdown that sent his team to the quarterfinal.
If
I'll
you're
take
hearing
it.
that, okay, we'll let you have that. I
This
don't
is
think that's what we were saying, but all right, you have
I heard that he listens to this podcast, so
that.
I heard well at the end of the day, Nick, I think life is a lot of just about just how you frame things.
That's very true. Yes, I
And your
agree with that.
perspective. So I choose to stay in a little bit of delusion for most of it. I won't lie, a lot of it is based in delusion.
Hmm.
Um, but it served me well so far. But again, this was a game that was just it was not close. And but I fully with you in the idea that it always felt like if just a couple of things were to go, not quite the same way as it was in Penn State SMU, although you kind of felt that on that was more on any other day. If that pick, like say, if that pick six doesn't happen, how does the rest of the game actually fall? How does that drive go? How does it always just felt like, okay, if they make this play, that fourth down, if they go for that fourth down and make it, if that drive just goes this little bit further, if they just get that stop.
Well, that final drive before obviously the blue touchdown, where I think pretty much everything fell their way. I think there was at least one fumble on that drive that they recovered. You know, they had a couple of disputable decisions go their way. There were just little things that seemed to work on that drive, and that's why I started getting a little bit like worried, and not worried, but was getting a bit concerned that we were letting them back into the game a bit too much. And yeah, Blue just settled any nerves anyway. But yeah, and they again, had Blue not got that touchdown, you could have there was I think there was plenty of opportunities that if they had managed to get a 3-and-out, that they could have easily gone on to get another touchdown and draw the game. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those. But at the end of the day, I know that you're happy. At the end of the day, Texas walk away with a win, and a generally comfortable win, sets you up to play Arizona State in the quarterfinals. This was my game where I was like, this could be the worst game. And I don't want to say not for any other reason than if this goes the way I think it will, it'll play out like a couple of the other games have this weekend, and it'll be all Texas. I know as
If we
comfortable as that'd be an experience for you to watch,
yeah.
as a neutral, as a relative neutral in that, like I feel like this may not be the most fun game to watch.
if if we can stop Scatterbo, which is our run defense has been pretty good most of the year, I don't think Arizona have a lot else going for them. And I don't mean that I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Arizona, but I think they're riding on a lot of their season is riding on the fact that they've got a former alumni as their head coach, Scatterbo playing unreal football, and but I think that they are easily gettable. Like I don't think their defense is amazing, and I think that I think our defense, if we can stop Scatterbo and force the QB to have to throw the ball, we could take the game away from them fairly quickly. But we all know that you've got to turn up in these games, and you can't just take it lightly. They are in a bowl position for a reason, or they're in a playoff position for a reason. So we've got to be on it, and I'm hoping that Majors isn't going to be missing for that game because I think he's a huge he's a huge miss. But
what is it? What's his injury? Do we know?
I'm not sure what his injury was, but he came out of the game and then never came back in.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure what his injury ended up being,
because
but
they shifted guard to center, didn't they?
yeah, he's our backup, the center, and then we
Yeah,
have another guard who played then instead. So and he came on and played quite well. But we also lost. Well, we lost the right tackle as well, but he came back on pretty much straight away.
and the advantage is there's not a game straight away this weekend. You've got that extra week sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
so he should be. I would expect him to play as long as it's not too serious an injury. But like I say, they may have just been holding him back because I think when he went down, we were already 14 points clear, so it wasn't like as if it meant too great a deal. And they obviously they've got a lot of faith in the backup anyway. So yeah, I think it'd be as long as we can get him back. I mean, Majors is a big part of the offensive line, a bit like Kelvin Banks. So yeah,
yeah, I think I'm in a similar fashion to Fletch. No disrespect to you or your Texas team. It's like the fourth choice game of that
Oh,
of
yeah.
this next round.
I'll,
You know,
I'll take that.
and
I'll take that all
that's.
day of the week.
I mean, I think a lot of that, some of that is personal preference as well. But just because of the league. But like I said in our, talking about the other game, that that Boise State Penn State game, just that's attractive to me, just because I think the matchup of the two teams.
Yeah.
So I think it's falls on personal preference as well. But I certainly, I certainly expect your boys to win, and I hope you do win. But
And I think going into that game, we're currently 2-score favourites, whereas the other games, there's 11 score swing in the Penn State Boise, 2.5 in the Ohio Oregon, and then where is it? Where's it gone? That fourth lesser cared about game. I'm joking. There's a 2-point swing in that one. So there's 2 games that are 2 and 3 point swings, and then 2 that are slightly bigger, one of which probably is down to the fact that it's Boise State are in that game.
Yeah.
And like we said, I mean, the Boise and Arkansas are there because of more of default. They've got that position because of the way that the playoffs are run. They've got that position. I don't think if you were to put them in by the strength of their team and the strength of their results, I don't think that they would have been in the position that they are. It's just the way that the playoffs have fell and the way that they run the fact that Arkansas get in because of the fact they won their conference. Boise are there because they were the best of the group of 5. I think naturally you probably have put them in the games that we've just had.
Yeah.
I do want Boise to win, though. I would love to see a Boise win.
Wouldn't we all? Genuinely, wouldn't we all? It's as even Chapman's alluded to on a couple of occasions. Everyone loves an underdog. I think you'll be a far cry from anyone who doesn't want to see an underdog like Boise State as well. The only problem I think you'll find is if Boise State, even if it's just in the quarters, go ahead and beat Penn State, and they beat them in the run game, and Genty puts up 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns. It's got to be just insufferable to hear people. Travis Hunter's name will constantly be coming up in that conversation, and I think it's just going to distract from their achievement. But to move on to the final of the 4 games, the first one that actually got played, Nick's Notre Dame beating Indiana 27-10, and much like I said to Sam, there's no better person can take this away than yourself there, Nick.
No, I mean, like I said, I watched it on a delay. By the time, I was out at the theatre on Friday night. I then was travelling early to my parents for Christmas. So, the game, I needed some sleep while the game was on.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at the score or anything like that. I stayed away from. I didn't turn my phone on because I didn't want an egg comment or something to pop up in the chat group.
Yeah.
So I stayed well away from everything, and I got to my parents, and I got my girls settled and everything else, and then I was like, right, I'd already got me all day to take the game, record the game, so I just sat there, and it could have been like I said, so I started it probably maybe 5.5 hours after the game had finished. Yeah. And it could have easily have been live because I knew nothing about it. And I was I'm sort of like getting into it, and I'm sort of there and sitting on the edge of the sofa, and then I'm up and I'm pacing. And, I've got my eldest, Daddy, sit down, and my old man, who like doesn't really follow the sport. And he's like, who we supporting? I was like, gold helmets. And he's like, oh, right, okay. What are they doing now? Well, they've just run 11 yards. Oh, what does that mean? I forgot to. I'm trying to watch the game. But I think, by half time, that game, it wasn't over, but it felt over by half time.
Yeah.
It just felt that Indiana couldn't live with the run, which everyone said pre-game. It was always going to be could Indiana, stop the Notre Dame run, and they just didn't have an answer for it. And by half time, I think the lead was 17. Was it 17? I think something like that.
17-3.
Yeah, and it just felt that it wasn't an insurmountable lead, but it felt like Notre Dame were in control by halftime.
Yeah.
And it was just play out the game sensibly, and you will win it. And I mean, even in the in the fourth quarter when they came back, it was because Indiana scored 2 touchdowns, didn't they, late on. Even in that fourth quarter, you just felt, well, I think it's one step too. They left too much to do.
Yeah.
So at no point did I really feel worried, other than when the game started, and you just in that pre-game nerves. But they settled as you watch the team go. So, yeah.
Your game played out very much the way that it did for me. Like, by halftime, you're 2 scores up, that's it. You're ready to just and not have to worry too much.
Yeah, I mean, Riley Leonard was what? 23 for 32, 201 yards and 1 touchdown. He did throw an interception, but that was late on. But he's... I have said it on this pod, and I don't shy from it. Early on he was absolutely terrible, but it's almost as if that loss against whoever, Northern Illinois Halfwits, it's almost as if that was just like the light switch that flipped, and just every game after that, which was effectively a playoff game because Notre Dame had to win every single one of them. It was just like a slow and steady improvement as each game went on. And I've said that I'm quite happy to say that early on I thought he was an absolute liability, but he has got so much better and so much more secure with the ball, because that was one of the biggest things I had. He kept giving the ball away.
How weird's this, Nick? So obviously the way that our games played out, both as you're saying, both teams. Sort of once we got to halftime, we were sort of sorted in a way. We were able to relax. Riley Leonard, completion 71.9%, for 201 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Quinn Ewers, 70.8% completion, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They're way too similar. Like there's only what, like 1.1% and a yard in it. Otherwise, they had the same completion. I think the only difference is Riley Leonard had 30 yards and a touchdown rushing, and I'm going to guess Quinn Ewers had -3.
I mean, I think on the flip side of the ball, I was so impressed with Xavier Watts. I mean, again, in the essence that I can talk about how Riley Leonard has improved as the season's gone on. Xavier Watts has just gone from their stratosphere, with the fact that Benjamin Morrison at cornerback has been injured all year. Xavier Watts at safety has had to play his role at safety, but has also had to sort of like moonlight in the cornerback position as well. And I think I think his draft stock early on in the season, he was rated in the 200s. His picking number was at the 200s, and now it's up in the 50s. You know, he's been such a team captain. You know, he was a team captain selected at the beginning of the year, and he's been such a good performer constantly. You know, I've got nothing but great things to say about it, and I wish I had dreadlocks like that. You know,
I mean, his stats,
Predator style ones.
His stats for that game: 10 tackles, 5 solo, 5 assisted, 1 PD, and the interception as well.
Yeah,
I mean, for a safety, they're pretty good stats. I mean, he out tackled anyone else on your defense by double.
yeah. I mean, again, like I said, with the loss of Benjamin Morrison, he's the one that's had to step up and lead the defense, sort of thing. So you know, he's that player you don't want to take out as well. You know, if you can leave him in on every single down that you're facing, you know, you just look to be performing so much better.
Yeah, he's a bit like Barron for us.
Yeah,
because I mean, obviously Barron won. What was it? What was the trophy he won? Whatever the one for DBs is. Which, given the fact Travis Hunter won everything else, I'm surprised that he managed to get it for DB. But yeah,
with this one again, I tried my hardest to even just tweet about it as little as possible, just in case you did check your phone and go in and have a look and whatnot. No, that wasn't why. It was because I was lying in bed just thinking, very comfy. I'm not going on my phone. I can't be asked. But
I'd done everything right. I put my phone before I went to bed. I put my phone on airplane mode. I made sure my Bluetooth was on so that as soon as I got in the car, it would connect, so I wouldn't have to go messing around. Everything was set, so I just didn't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
I just, you know, as far as I was aware, right then, Notre Dame weren't playing. They kicked off at 9:30 in the morning, you know, because that's what it was to me.
which, by the way, very generous of them to do so far.
Yeah, very generous of them to do, obviously, yes.
But watching that game was the first drive happened and Indiana go -3 yards and a punt. Oh, by the way, while speaking of -3, well done, Sam. You were absolutely Quinn Ewers -3 yards.
how was it?
-3 yards rushing, obviously.
Yeah.
Then Notre Dame come out, go -1 yard on a run, then throw an interception. Then Indiana come out, go 4 plays, interception, and you're just thinking, for God's sake, this is the game. This is what it's going to be. It's either going to be just all out defense all game, and someone's going to win this 3-0, or like. But then it kind of sprung into life with Jeremiah Love and that 98-yard touchdown. What a run!
Yeah, I mean,
run.
as Jason Bell would say on Sky on the Sunday, he had go get 'ems. You know, he just took off, and it was like laters, he's gone. You know?
Yeah, it was quite an enjoyable experience watching him nearly get caught up by 3 people as he's kind of taking that. You kind of slow down, take that look over your shoulder. Right, where am I? Where is everyone else? Couple of guys get a bit close, and he's just like, no, I wasn't letting you guys play. No, I'm gone. See you later. I'm going. It was. I kind of like, right, okay, here we go. That woke Notre Dame up. Notre Dame score on their next drive, but every time Indiana got the ball, it was just.
It looked like they were out of ideas, and it was
before
like
they started the game. They were out of
it was
ideas.
like the game started,
like
and
a
it was
deer
like,
in headlights.
Yeah, that's probably a good analogy. Deer in headlights. You know, it was like the game started and it was like, oh yeah, we've got control of it. Oh no, we haven't. No, we haven't. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And they were just in panic mode from straight off. So
And what I can say, what I will say to that myself is just watching that pre-game, and I watched a lot of I watched the game day live pre-game, watched all that sort of stuff. Let's get into it. One thing that cannot be understated is out of all four, don't get me wrong, all of them put on a good show. The atmosphere in South Bend
yeah,
on Friday night was unlike many I think you'll get anywhere. What an atmosphere. And I'd like to turn around and say Indiana were that way because they turned up, and I don't think they were quite ready for what Notre Dame fans were going to bring and the atmosphere that was going to be there. But I don't even think that's necessarily the case. Like you said, they looked out of our days. They looked like a deer in headlights. The play calling was almost unforgivable. And complete complete credit to Kurt Signetti and what he's done with that Indiana team. But I feel like I want half. I want. Wait, hang on. How much time of possession did they have all game? Because I want. But well, whatever it was, I want that time back. At least in the
What,
first
Indiana?
half. Yeah, yeah. It was the time of
Uh,
possession.
24-20.
I want it back, or at least 17 minutes of it. I want it back because I felt like I was watching a team that just didn't turn up. That did, like I said, it was all those things, but it was also the play calling. It was the execution. It was just about everything. And one thing I did say on Friday night while watching that game was, with no disrespect to Notre Dame, I don't think Notre Dame, outside of a 98 yard touchdowns and 98-yard touchdowns, but that's one single incredible play. It's your 40-yard screamer. It's your Vincent Company against Leicester type goals type thing. I didn't see anything from Notre Dame that felt like, wow, this Notre Dame team is outright special, just because they didn't have to be.
yeah, they didn't need to get out of third gear, sort of thing.
They
Mm.
just didn't, because Indiana, I mean, defensively immaculate. They all would do it? They were doing the jobs. They were doing everything they needed to do. Defensively, they were fantastic. But offensively, I felt like Riley Leonard just had to execute, and that was his job. Just execute what and go out there and do what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, like that picture I sent in the chat of the Notre Dame player with his foot on the Hoosiers player. You know,
Yeah.
typical egg comment. Oh, look at his legs. But I was like, that felt like the game. It just felt like it was. In Indiana were just dead to right straight off.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
as I said earlier, bring on the puppy dogs.
Well, that's a perfect thing into the next thing I was going to ask was you've now set up a date with Georgia. How are you feeling about that matchup?
It's in Miami, isn't it? At the Hard Rock, I think.
I believe so.
I believe it is. Um, and Notre Dame actually open their season next year, or next season at the Hard Rock as well against some Florida has-beens. You know, so if that was in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, or if Georgia were at home, I'd probably be a little bit more cautious. I'm not here screaming from the rooftops that we're going to win. I know I say bring on the puppy dogs, but um, I think it's going to be very competitive. And I think a one good drive could win that game.
I I stand corrected. It was not. It's not at Hard Rock. It's It's in New Orleans,
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
Sugar Bowl. Which
Apologies.
no. But it might be just be one of them
No,
where.
I thought it was. I thought it was at Hard Rock anyway. So
But as a benefit to both teams, that's an indoor stadium.
yeah.
Where so what is it? Be 1st of January? Yeah, 1st of January. That's not gonna with it being indoor weather's not gonna play too much of a part. So
No.
Georgia will probably be a little bit more set up for the game than they would be, say, if they were having to go play in the cold. It should make up for a really really interesting matchup. What do you think, Son?
Yeah, I Georgia defense is really good. Like, I mean, we've played them twice and absolutely pummeled against them both times, really. I think I don't see. I think it'll be an edgy game because I think both defenses are very good, and I think that could be where the game's won. Whose defense outs the other defense. So, and which offense can somehow get some points on the board. But I don't expect it to be high scoring. I don't know what the over under is for this game.
Ge-
Maybe quick.
The only thing I knew was that the line opened at Georgia being -1 favorite.
At the moment, based upon what I've got, is that Georgia are -2, and the over under for this game is 44. I probably wouldn't go. I'd probably go under 44
I just
personally.
think it's like I think I think Ohio State Oregon's the game of the round, but that's because I haven't got any skin in the game,
Yeah.
and so I can watch an amazing game and
Mhm.
not have to worry about it. Some others might say that Notre Dame Georgia is the game of the round, and I wouldn't be against someone saying that. I think it's just that game I have skin in it, and so it makes
Yeah.
it it's a bit more uneasy and what.
Mm.
But it's oh god, it's
And
it's one of those that
you're an
you know
independent as well, so it's not like you have to root against a genuine rival or conference opponent, a conference that you don't. You're an independent. You're okay. For me myself, out of those quarterfinals, offense. If you want a game to introduce your mate to college football to, who's not
yeah,
really into it, who isn't sure, Oregon, Ohio State will probably be the game that you'd want to out of those four.
yeah,
If you want if you want a mate who knows football that you want to sit there and watch it with, Georgia Notre Dame will probably be one because that will be a lot more nitty and gritty.
yeah,
I got to look at it that way, and this is what Penn State, Boise State. I think for that reason will just be the most interesting because
It'll be fun.
that game could be anything. It could
Yeah,
be anything, and
it'll be good to be able to watch that game with zero interest in it from my side because we won't come up against either of them. So for
yeah,
me,
yeah.
that's going to be so much fun to just be able to
Well,
hopefully watch and just enjoy. But whereas
don't fancy that
that'll be
side of the
more.
bracket making its way to the final then against
Oh
Texas.
no, I don't. I think it's for me, it's out of Georgia and Notre Dame. But I think it'll just be a fun game to watch. That for me, I'll be able to like enjoy it without thinking, without thinking too much into it. Whereas the Oregon Ohio State, I'm going to be watching that with much more laser
much
focus.
more interest. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think the thing that worries me, and it doesn't worry me in the sense of like nervousness. It almost worries me in like overconfidence in that all the brackets that I'm seeing of all the professional media outlets and you just have to jump on NBC and look at their football guys or jump on ESPN and look at their guys and everyone's got it's like two or three over one have got Notre Dame over Georgia and it's like you just like everyone keeps picking the Irish, and it's like, you know, a saying that we have over here, it's squeaky bum time because you're like, oh God, no, everyone's picking us, no, 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 no,
Mhm.
no. And it's just ramping up the pressure and it's ramping up the nerves and
You almost want to go into that game against Georgia as being the underdogs because it's I think when you start going into games where there's a much more heavier expectation on you, especially in a game which is probably a bit more even than normal, but if teams are sort of starting to people are leaning towards your team, it gets you way more nervous than if everyone had written you off.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, this is kind of twofold. We all enjoy the meme, or when I don't know if people said 5 out of 5 said X was gonna beat Y, then Y beats X, and then Y's social media account just posts the screenshot of it, kind of going, "Oh yeah, you all keep it. We're keeping the receipts." Everyone loves a little bit of that, but also I don't know. Maybe I could just speak for myself here, but being a Lions fan, I've watched this team build its identity on being the underdog and being the whole, we're the ones who are being kicked down and beaten, no one likes us and no one rates us, and going into it with that chip on your shoulder. I like that mentality.
No one likes Notre Dame because they're too busy beating up on the U.S. Army and U.S.
Oh,
Marines and
here
everything.
it is. Oh. Are you egg in disguise?
I'm voicing his opinion through him.
All right,
I'm
okay, okay,
trying to be the
okay.
embodiment.
Um,
But I
there can
think
only be one egg.
uh, problem is he's been hard boiled. That's his issue. Um, but no, Fletch, you used the analogy earlier in the show about Homer Simpson and the boxing one. Um, it's like the Homer Simpson meme that so many people use of him backing into the
Yeah,
bush.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not here shouting and screaming that Notre Dame are going to win. So I won't need to be that meme of just backing into the bush, because I don't want to be overconfident. But you know, don't get me wrong. If halfway through the game I think we're going to win, I'm going to start. I'm going to start saying so. But
This is the issue that I have with our game because obviously we are 2 scores favourites to win this game. And I don't want to. That's why it was the same as when we were against Clemson. Like, everyone had us to batter Clemson. I don't want to be that guy that's going in thinking we're going to beat these and be comfortably beating them and end up losing the game because then you just look like a tit. I'd
yeah,
rather be optimistically cautious about these sorts of games. And once you're in a position where you think you're you're confident, a bit more confident you're going to win, then start coming out and saying all the stuff. I'd rather be like that because the worst thing that could happen, especially for us this year or this game, is if we go out with all the confidence and end up losing to Arizona.
Yeah. Um, hey, I like to talk shit. I don't. I believe it or not. You won't think of it about me,
no, really.
but I like a lot. But I like to think I do it in a way that's at least somewhat human, never too. I try not to take it too seriously. I'll
Yeah,
bag on Ohio State, but I'm not stupid. Um, I just I truly thought we'd lose to Ohio State this year. I came out and I was on the pod. I was on. We were going. Listen, I'm prepared for us to get beat badly. It is what it is. I'll take it. Whatever. The shit that I got all week. And then all the Ohio State fans doing the whole backing off into that bush. I'm like, nah, bro, nah, my brother,
that,
come back out to play.
cut the
Come
cut
on,
the bush down.
come on, come on. You're not going in there. You're not going in there. Come on.
I mean,
Um,
the advantage, I guess, the advantage I've got is that with the exception of Chappers, I don't really know any Georgia fans personally. I mean, I don't know Chappers that well. I've only met him once, but
mm,
I don't know any Georgia fans personally.
yeah,
So it's like I can stay on the periphery and I don't need to
yeah,
get involved. I don't need to get involved in all the, you know, you know, mine's bigger than yours, and I can wave it, or I can wave it faster. You know, it's like
And we're
I can have
grateful for that.
I can have a laugh with I can have a laugh with my
Yeah.
mates. I can come on here, you know, and you've got you and your, you know, and we've just mentioned Egg about how Egg loves to ride me because he gives me grief about the U.S. Army. I
Yeah,
see
yeah.
your eyes go there, Fletch. I know what you
It
think.
was just the wording you previously used about 30
Yeah,
seconds
I
of
realise
that
that.
one
I
didn't.
realise that. I realise that. But I'm just trying to make my point.
No, no, no.
Um, you know,
It'll be a lot different if we both get to the natty though. It'll be completely different.
oh, I think he'll have to split this pod into two parts. He'll have to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
you on as an individual, and then he'll have to have me on as an
Yeah.
individual. And put it all together, and then there's me and you watching each other's segment.
Speaking of analogies and gifts, you'll have me being Michael Jackson eating the popcorn.
I mean, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that Notre Dame can get there
No.
No.
because I think I
If you beat, I
without
think if you beat Georgia, I would put you as the favourites.
yeah, again, I don't want to be disrespectful to Boise State or to Penn State because they are good teams, you know. But I would think if you be in this scenario, whether you're Notre Dame or whether you're you know whoever, if you beat Georgia to put you in the semis, you know, and the team that you're going to be playing is not as good, you haven't really got an excuse for not being in the final.
Mm.
So, you know, I think Notre Dame have done really well to end up on that side of the bracket, knowing that they were only going to get probably one super tough game to get to the final. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah,
no problem. So, those games, sorry, will all take place over
New
New
Year, I
Year's
think.
Eve, New
New
Year's
Year's,
Day.
yeah.
It's all over New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Well, so you've got they're all on Wednesday, so New Year's Day and then the
Yeah,
day after. So
but I
you've got
believe one of them's
Ulster.
Wednesday, but at like 12:30 in the morning.
Oh,
So
sorry, yeah,
technically it's
sorry,
Tuesday night, but
yeah, yeah. So
actually for us it's
Penn, Penn State against Boise
yeah,
is at midnight. Then it's us v Arizona at 6 o'clock in the Peach Bowl. Then Oregon, Ohio in the Rose Bowl at 10 o'clock, and then Notre Dame at Georgia 1:45
yeah.
See,
morning.
I would have thought the Oregon Ohio would have been the last game on the slate. You know
Mm.
that prime time, but I guess they are prime time the day before. I guess you know, but it's that's another thing that I don't know what to make of it. You've got to wait for the whole round to play out before you play.
Mm.
It's just more time to, you know, for a fan, it's just more time to get unsettled. And it
I
was kind of nice this weekend. I mean, again, yes, I watched it on a late, but it was kind of nice to have your game done and dusted and not have to worry
Mm.
about it.
Yeah, but similarly though, I think if you'd have stayed up to watch the game and you weren't going to your parents on Saturday and all that
Yeah,
sort of stuff, I think to a certain extent as well, and it doesn't really matter whether it's whether you have like whether there are games before it or not.
yeah,
I think some of it resides just in being a night game. I hate night games as much as like I'm a night owl. I like staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning because I'm that kind of person. I enjoy all that sort. I hate night games when my team's playing purely because it means I've got a whole day. And being from the UK, and I get up at normal time GMT, even though I go to sleep at normal time Eastern time. That it's all day. Or you just sitting around, you're waiting, and yes, again, yeah, you had a couple of games in there as well, but like that's the thing I hate the most is just night games in general, just the whole waiting for it to just the game to start.
Yeah.
And when you've got something like that riding on it, good luck. Not kind of at least you're working yourself up a little bit.
The
I don't
good, yeah.
particularly think you're that kind of person, but
I mean, for me, obviously Texas is on at 6 o'clock, so I can watch that game and either turn over to watch Ohio and Oregon battle it out and see who we're going to face, or not bother watching any more college football for the rest of the year. So by nine
Oh
o'clock,
no,
I could.
you've got to do your duty as a podcaster. So you've got to watch all the games regardless.
Well, maybe after the quarters, but I will not be watching any more of the quarters if we don't make it through because I'll be that annoyed about losing to fucking Arizona State
that's fair.
that I won't want to watch it. But no, I think I would prefer to be in the position of playing that 6 o'clock game and then going in and watching Ohio versus Oregon and knowing, okay, now I get to watch which team we're going to play and enjoy the game a bit more. If we were watching Ohio versus Oregon first, I'd then be going into that game a bit more nervous because it's like, okay, we're now going in to play Oregon or
Yeah.
Ohio. We already know who we're going to play. So I suppose you've got it the other way around because you're going to have the outcome first and have a whole day, over 24 hours to wait to know, okay, this is who we're going to play. This is who we're going to play.
Yeah.
But it
But
should be fun. Those 4 games should be fun, hopefully.
it should be. There should be. And as a neutral, a complete neutral in all of this, I the one thing I hope, I
Not
say a
not
complete
complete,
neutral,
not complete neutral.
7/8 neutral, 1/8 just pure hatred. The the one thing I just hope for is good football. I want to be able to go to sleep at 5 in the morning on the 2nd of January and say that was 4 damn good games of football. And if whether they're all one score games or whether they're all blowouts, okay, you don't want to see a blowout. A blowout isn't real. But if I
I
can
do.
walk away just saying like the football was good.
That actually, that's actually really interesting because it leads me into a question I had for both of you. In that this first round that we've just seen play was uneventful. The favourites all won. You
Yeah,
know, the teams that were expected to win won. Um, None of them looked to be in trouble at any point in time, really. I mean, I know we've had a discussion just now about certain moments that could have gone one way or the other, but in
yeah.
truth, nothing really went against the grain. Did that round lack drama? Well, yeah, maybe a little bit. Fletch, you're like you said, you're the majority neutral. So it probably did lack a bit of drama, but do people not think that the future of this 12-team playoff is bright? Because I really do think that, you know, with a bit of foresight in that they've got to play this, it will be this way again next year, so they will have more data to work with. You know, the 12-team format is providing meaningful games, and it has done for weeks towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
If it had been a 14 playoff I think in the last 4 weeks of the season, there would have been one meaningful game in the whole of the end of the season. Whereas this 12-team format has kept everything alive right up to the end of the season. So while the drama in the first round of the playoff now is lacking, I genuinely think, it's my opinion that the future's bright. It was great to see games on campus, stadiums full, fans enjoying themselves. There probably needs to be a tweak in the format, but you don't necessarily need to cut the teams. And I just really think that this 12-team format and the actual playoff itself, it's trending in the right direction. I that was something I wanted to ask you guys. Is that what was your opinion?
I These sorts of things are never gonna be to everyone's liking. Someone's always gonna have an issue with it. So I think it's hard to sort of go about. I mean, me personally, I think it's so difficult to see how, because we've only had it once, and I think maybe there's been a slight bit of controversy around some of the teams that got in and some of the teams that didn't. I think the likes of Alabama didn't exactly perform the way that everyone expected them to. They obviously had the Nick Saban dip. Probably teams maybe that you would have expected to be in that playoff brackets, early brackets, that weren't, has probably played a factor in it. I think the problem is that you know the way the games played out probably just didn't help the situation. But at the same time, I think that in on another day, those games could have been electrifying. There was opportunities for those games to be good. It just they didn't play out that way. And
Yeah,
sometimes you're going to get that. I mean, you could arguably say that going into the NFL playoffs, there's going to be games that are going to be like that anyway. Sometimes it happens. It just so happens that the four teams you expect to win won. On another day, two of the four teams could have lost.
Yeah.
It's just the way that it ended up playing out. And I think, you know, I'd rather have 12 teams fighting it out and making the regular season more interesting the whole way, rather than having
yeah,
by week 13 we know exactly who's going to be where they are, then and then having maybe a slight dip in the first round of playoffs, then just having four teams, two of which two games, and then the national. I never liked that form because I think there was a lot more issues with the four teams than there is with the 12. I think there is the opportunity for upset. There's the opportunity for storylines, and yes, okay, it doesn't always play out how you want it to, but next season it may play out like you want it to. So it's hard. It'll be easy. It's easy to say in hindsight that it didn't work, but we were going into this thinking these games look exciting. These games look like they're going to be interesting, and they just didn't play out that way. So, it's just one of those things that it's easy to say in hindsight that it's not very good. But I personally think I'd rather have 12 potential teams fight their way to get to the national and make it more interesting than four teams getting to the national.
Um, just from my perspective, I think I very much I agree with pretty much all of what Sam said. A lot of what I would say just is simply an echo of what you said. But also, I think yeah, one of the things I want to kind of double down on, I guess, is just this is year one.
yeah,
There are teething problems. There will always be like, again, you're taking 138 teams and saying, let's decide on our opinion who are the 12 best.
Mhm.
For the most part, okay, yes, you've got a Big Ten champion, you've got a
Group of
SEC
12.
champion, Big 12, ACC champion. All four of them champions guaranteed to go in no matter what.
And then the
And
top
then
group of five.
but then the group of five ones, okay, you've got five teams to choose from, but it's your opinion which is the best of those five. Well, maybe it wasn't too much of an opinion whether Boise State were the best out of those five. They quite clearly were. But the rest of them, it's an opinion. And this is my worry with everything is when it boils down to opinion, and you can turn around to me and say, "This is my decision for my opinion. This is why I have an opinion." That's all well and good, but I either want a mathematical formula that, whether you like it or not, nobody can disagree with that mathematical formula, which is so impossible to do because, again, you want a system that weights. SEC wins. Is the SEC like a much tougher division than the ACC? Probably, yeah. Clearly, the Big Ten's better than you all. Suck it. Um, but how does that formula account for the weight of an SEC win over the weight of an ACC win? Does
But
it
then,
account
but
for
then how
beat?
how do you then weight that? Because you're then getting into
Exactly.
the realms of what should their weighting be?
Exactly. So, to get into a mathematical formula, you have to reinvent all of college football from
Mm.
the top down. Everything gets wiped, and you can't just do that. It's an opinion. And my worry with this is I still feel I'm very much with you guys. SMU deserve to be in there.
Yeah,
They went 10-3. What? Yeah, they were 10-3. Alabama went 9-5. They lost the same amount of games in more games. They won more games. And end of story. The record speaks for itself. I agree, but my worry is because at the end of the day, the majority of who runs this is ESPN. The majority of who's going to run a lot of it are television broadcast companies, the ones putting the billions into it initially, the millions into it initially. I don't want them to now go to the drawing board in the off season and go, I really wish I'd have put Alabama in there. I should have valued Alabama's wins against X and X over their losses against Vandy and Oklahoma. I should have. I don't want them. I want it to be fair. I want SMU to have their fair opportunity for earning that right to be there. But my big worry at the moment is, well, yes, there wasn't enough drama. Yes, some things might need to be a bit different. Yes, we need to kind of see how we work through it. Do SMU get to go back and at least next year come back better and say, no, actually, we are better this year around. We've recruited better. We've done all that sort of stuff because of the exposure the playoffs has given us. But like I say, I just don't want them to go to the
Well,
drawing board next year and say, well, we shouldn't have put SMU in. So I don't know. Say it's Georgia Tech next year. Georgia Tech don't get in because SMU did bad the year before.
but it's like it's all completely relative because at the end of the day, what if next year Alabama and LSU are up there and you have those two instead of say SMU and I don't know who the other ones say whoever it was that Oregon beat sorry Ohio beat
Not Michigan.
no Tennessee, say if it's
Yeah.
LSU and Alabama instead of Tennessee and SMU, do those games potentially play out differently? Well, there is a chance that it could, but again, it's no one probably thought that, you know, on another day, Indiana may not have decided to turn up at Notre Dame like a deer in headlights and look like they were completely out of being able to do anything. On
yeah.
another day, they could have turned up to Notre Dame and could have put up a good fight. It just sometimes that's how football happens, and you just gotta, you know, it's also you got to think it's the beauty of being the home team. Like
But we'll say, what
in
if it was
every
a
single
neutral
game,
site?
like I don't think it needs it because it's at the end of the day, these a lot of these teams play at these stadiums. They should be able to cope with these things, but at the same time, like obviously, like Notre Dame played at home, they got the advantage from being better, so they played at home,
Yeah.
and that's an advantage to being there. I mean, I don't think you need to have neutral sites in the
No,
next
no.
round. Fair
No, I know.
enough. But
But
I like that college football has an element that's like the wild card where you gain an advantage from being a better team and playing better.
yeah, yeah.
So I just it's just one of those things. I think the only reason we're talking about it as it is because the way it's played out this year. And if would we be talking about this in the same way if SMU and Tennessee had won? Probably not, because two of the underdog teams won. And then everyone would be saying, oh, this format's really great because we're able to have teams that you wouldn't necessarily think would stand a chance beating the better teams, making it more competitive, and we'd be fine. But because of the fact that we've had four teams who were the favourites winning and winning comfortably, it's become a deal.
I mean, I'm not against. I'm not against that, and I don't. Every team, regardless of who you are, every team that was in the playoff this year deserved to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't matter who you are. If you deserve to be there, then you shoot your shot, and if your shot isn't good enough, fair enough. You go back, you try again next year. If your shot is good enough, you move on and you've got to go again.
Yeah.
And I just think it has been entertaining. And, we spoke to Brian last week, and, and he said himself, they have got contracts and things lined up with bowl games that they have to stay committed to, which is why they can't change this format until 2026. But he said himself that with another years of data next year, they will be able to look at it in 26 and probably change it to a system that suits the data, which I'm all for. So I just didn't like the way I read it. The way I read it yesterday was people were moaning that the first round went as everyone expected it to, and it lacked the drama. But I just think that's not what it's about. The teams that were there deserve to be there. That is what it is. But what you've got is you've got good games now, lined up, ready. For all you know, you might get an entire season's worth of drama in the next round.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm trying
I
to
think
find the message. Sorry, go on, Sam.
I was going to say one of the things as well, and this is one of the things we need to remember as in terms of improving college football as a whole. Teams like SMU, like Indiana, like Boise, like those teams, if they can show improvement of getting to the playoffs, they have a greater chance of getting better college players committing to their programs, which only then improves them. Only
Yeah.
then makes them more. It makes it more of a challenge and makes them stronger and makes college football better. So
Yeah,
to
I
me,
mean, I don't want to throw a stray at Gary because he's not here to defend himself. But the amount of players that jumped ship from Florida State because they had a bad year,
mm,
and that, no disrespect to Gary and what have you, but we had a pod where we talked about how many people had decommitted from Florida State and were going all over everywhere and going
mm,
elsewhere, and that just shows you can have a bad season and it affect your recruitment drive the next year.
Yeah.
You have a good season, that has a positive effect. That allows you to recruit better. So you say it, Sam. You
yeah,
hit the nail on the head. That's a perfect example.
yeah, and I think as well, like we always talk about how the SEC is the elite division and all of this stuff, but if the likes of SMU and that, sometimes they don't get the chance to play the best teams in the SEC. So they don't know as a barometer of where they're at against these teams. So actually, as well, it offers them, if you can show that you've done enough to win the games that you need to win to get into the playoffs, to play the teams in the SEC, the big teams that you've maybe not had a chance to play, well, here's your opportunity now to show you how good you actually are. And it also gives them an ability to be able to say, okay, what's the next steps? Where do we need to go? So I think it allows them to develop that. And I'm not trying to make seem like the SEC is the best of the best of the best. Because at the end of the day, there's great teams in all conferences. But I don't think you can put a slight on someone like SMU because they haven't played Georgia or Texas or you know Ohio or whatever. The teams that you would maybe the bigger ones. Like you can't. It's just not going to happen. They can't play everyone every single year. And as we've already sort of known, we've already got the 25, 26, and 27
Yeah.
schedules pretty much all sorted. So SMU may not play any of those teams for the next 3 years, but are good enough to get into the nationals in the playoffs. So deserve a chance to then play them. And I think that's to be able to just say that, oh, well, we should have got in there because of you. It could have ended up playing exactly. Alabama could have gone into that and got absolutely spanked as well. We just
Yeah.
don't know. So the whole argument of we should have been in there over them and it was the wrong choice. It's so easy to say it in hindsight.
I think this is, and I love the question. I really do. I think it'd be great as it almost as its own individual episode again. Now we've been through a 12-team playoff, that this argument could be had for 2 hours on its own.
Mm.
While we all agree with each other, we could still find different things to bring up in a 2 hour conversation. So with that in mind, I'm aware that it's nearly Christmas Eve, gents. You've got families, you've got families and all that sort of stuff to go to spend time with. So I'm not gonna keep you too much longer. Um,
Oh, do I have
couple,
to? Do I have to go and spend it with them? Oh God.
at some point you're gonna have to. At least say thank you for using the Wi-Fi to join us on the conversation. Uh, but
I kicked them out of the kitchen earlier. They were very happy.
um, there's a couple of ideas for episodes in the off season that have been great to come through this. I've got some good ideas, but other than that, I think this is a good place to kind of call it a day.
I think the only other thing we've got to do, just because of the fact that we're all 3-4 in the playoffs,
As a community, yes, we are 3 and 4.
as a general prediction, what are our thoughts on who's going to win? Because there could be some differences here.
Yeah, I'll go there.
We could all say the exact same, and it is possible that we'll all say the same. But in terms of the
So
game,
Penn State, Boise State, real quick.
Penn State.
I'll give it Penn.
You know what? I want to go Boise.
I'd love to go Boise, but I just don't think they have enough, personally.
I know that's where I am. I would love to go Boise because I want. Fletch said it last week about wanting to go. Go different, and it's like I really do think that game could be entertaining.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know
Matt,
what? I'm going to go Boise. I just think they have the potential to make that game really interesting. It could blow up in my face, and if it blows up in my face, so be it. But I just think that game's got so much entertainment in it.
I think the thing is though with a game like that, with no disrespect to Boise State, yes, they put Ashton Genty up against box like 9 men in the box, and he's still come away with 10 yard, 20 yard gains and touchdowns and all that sort of stuff. I think your Big Ten and your SEC defenses are different beasts altogether.
Yeah.
You to be as childish as you want, you're gonna get hit hard by a lot of men, and the real men are gonna hit you hard. So,
Yeah, I mean, Gentry runs the wrong way, and he's going to run headlong into Abdul Carter, and that's
it,
not something you want to do.
and that's no disrespect to teams in the mountain, like around the nation in other conferences, but you're talking something. This is something different. This is another. Not to play that game. I don't want to play that game either, and be the one who's like, well, the Big Ten and the SEC are just they're just so much better.
Yeah,
But this is a different level of football that we're talking.
Unfortunately, they are. They tend to bring in the better players who are much bigger and much stronger, and tend to go relatively high in the draft. There's a reason why they're in the playoffs. So
Exactly. So I just, yeah, you're not playing. I don't know. You're not playing San Diego State. No,
not
lads.
playing Kennesaw State.
Whoa, Conference USA, wrong conference.
that was too easy.
I ain't catching no stray there. That was uncalled for. But no, you're not playing San Diego State now, my friend. That's just not what's happening. So, yeah, that's the only reason I'm sticking with Penn State until Boise State. But do you know, if Boise State win, I'm not exactly going to be upset about it. I'm going to be very,
Yeah,
very
me
happy
too.
about it.
I'll be happy if Boise win, but I can't back them.
So then we got Texas, Arizona State. I think Nick, where are you? Where are you with this one?
Texas.
Texas. Again, Arizona State's one of those. If they did win, I'd be really sad for Sam, but I wouldn't be sad for anyone else. I'd be quite enjoy it. But it would be Texas. I have to go Texas.
This Christmas tree may get flipped if we lose.
Well, it's New Year's Day. If you still have it up on New Year's Day,
Oh, it'll still be up. It will still be up, but it will get flipped. It'll probably get chucked out
okay,
on that day.
just tell the missus like, nope, I'm taking it down this year. Um,
She can take all the
It's
decorations off,
halfway
ready.
through the third quarter. She's wrapping it with cling film to try.
It's a real one, so we won't be keeping it anyway. But
Oh well, fair enough.
I'll just tell her that she can take all the decorations off on the day before New Year's Eve. We're going to leave the tree there, and it'll either get flipped from being unhappy or flipped from being happy.
but either way, the tree is getting flipped.
It is.
Ohio State, Oregon. I'll jump on this one first. I'm going Oregon, not just because I don't like Ohio State. I think they're the better team. Just outright, I think these are the better team.
Yeah, I'm going Oregon as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, Oregon.
And then finally,
God.
no, Notre Dame versus Georgia. I think it's French. Um, Nick,
Irish.
I'm backing the dogs, unfortunately. I just think that they're just one of those teams that seem to just beat. I don't want them to win, but I think they will win. And if Notre Dame win, I'll be a lot happier. But I also kind of, if we get to that national, the sweetness of beating the Bulldogs after they've just tanked us twice to beat them at the game that matters the most.
Hang on. Halfway through this podcast, you said how amazing it'd be if it was Notre Dame, Texas.
Well, yeah, it would. That would be the ideal. But in terms of to get a revenge game, you'd want that Bulldogs game. But I think at the same time, losing to them twice this year, to lose them a third time would just be a killer.
Yeah, so you want to lose to Notre Dame?
No, we want to beat Notre Dame. I'd rather play Notre Dame. Notre Dame, we stand a better chance of winning. Put it like that.
do you know what? I feel like in this game, I've got Nick. You're one of my favorite people on the planet. So if I
Thank
went
you.
with Georgia, I'd upset you, and I don't want to do that. But also,
Hey,
I
don't
love.
worry about me. You want to go for Georgia, you go for Georgia. It's
But
cool.
also, I love
I don't want
Chapman.
you upsetting Chappers either. You see.
And if I went with Notre Dame, I'd upset you, and I can't do that. So I'm
Yeah,
going to play for the first
I've
ever football game the first ever college football game. Well, it wouldn't be the first ever, but the first in so long for them to just say at one point, "Fuck it, just call it a tie. We can't be asked anymore." Um,
well, you could
it's
always
seven
go
in the
no.
morning. It's 7 in the morning, and the playoffs have gone.
We've gone through
None of you are
12
getting in. We're
overtimes.
done. Referee wants to go home. No,
You could go Notre Dame because I've gone the dogs. So that Chapman has me in his corner.
no. I think as a whole, I would side with Georgia in an extremely close game. Because again, out of all of them, Texas Arizona State is the only one I think that could end up being a blowout. Boise Penn State, I don't know what's going to happen. Oregon Ohio State, whatever the over is, I'd bet on that. And then
55, I think it is.
this one, I'd like to see this one as whoever crawls over the end of the line.
I'm not going to hold my breath on Egg being on my side either.
He doesn't appreciate your battering of the U.S. military. So
No, he doesn't. You know.
I haven't seen Egg until he spent half an episode with a scarf around his face. To be honest, I'm starting to worry about him a little bit. But no, I say just on a purely footballing basis, I think Georgia for me just takes it. Just.
yeah, I'm purely going Georgia just based on how I think the game is going to go. If I was going based on who I want to win, it's Notre Dame.
But I would love to see Notre Dame do it. I really would. Purely because I want the tension on it. I want the tension on it. I want to cut it. I want to be able to cut it with a knife. That's all I want, really.
So if argument's sake, and I realise this is in theory. So if it's a Texas Notre Dame final in in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. What are we doing? We got to do something special, you know.
Oh, we do.
You know, you're the boss.
I'll think of it over Christmas. So see how Christmas goes first.
See how these games go first. We could
That's
be
true.
out, and
Yeah.
Notre Dame could be out, and none of us will be caring about it.
And there's a function room in Leeds that's now empty on a Monday night
Oh,
because no one wanted to turn up. But no, like with that in mind, try again. I think this is a good place to call it. Gents, have a lovely Christmas. Have a lovely time with your families. I'm
and
not sure
yourself.
exactly when we'll be able to get on. I don't. If we do it on the next available Wednesday, that's New
Second,
Year's Day.
we could always look at maybe New Year's Day.
Could always
But
do it.
no, because the Texas game will be on.
No,
We'll be right
exactly,
in the middle of it.
exactly, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like on New Year's, that would be record.
I would the Friday be good?
I'm sure I could do the Friday.
Because
I'm
I can't do that Thursday the 2nd. I can't do, but I can do the Friday if everyone else can do the Friday.
I can't. I'm out.
I tell you what. We'll figure it
We'll
out.
work it out.
We don't need to do next episode's planning meeting on record.
You can cut that.
Yeah.
I can, but I probably won't. I can't be asked.
Some cutting magic from Fletch.
This has to be up in about an hour, and I'm knackered. I've got a 7-year-old who's decided that pre-Christmas all she wants to do is finalize a dance routine. I'm part of that dance routine, but I'm simply the object that lifts her up and makes her do flips. My back's killing me.
I thought you were going to give us a demonstration of your dance routine then.
No, my dance routine is essentially I stand up, hold her hands as she does this thing where she like Spider-Man climbs up.
Oh, and then flips backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, my eldest does that a lot.
Yeah, a lot. It's not fun. But anyway, gents, have a lovely Christmas. Have a
You
lovely
too.
New Year. And I will enjoy the
See
football.
you on the other side.
See you next year.
Yeah, see
Indeed.
you next year.